So, we have Karen with us, and she has a golden voice. Okay. But there is a much bigger story behind her, and we will be exploring that part of the story today. So, yeah. So, when we start, we would like to know about Karen as a personality, Karen as an individual, the brand which she has built around her, okay, the brand of GPS Girl. So how has been the journey from Karen Jacobsen to the GPS Girl as a brand?
Thank you for asking. So goodness, ever since I was very small, I wanted to be a singer and a songwriter. And I've written songs since I was 7 years old. And along the way, after doing recordings as a singer for jingles and television and radio commercials, I started to do voiceover work. And that's reading scripts with my speaking voice for television and radio commercials. And I did a lot of those in the 1990s in Australia. In fact, you couldn't turn the radio or the TV on without hearing my voice.
Okay.
Then I moved to New York City and I got an audition. And the client was looking for a native Australian female voiceover artist living in the northeast of the United States. And I read that brief. I thought, that's me. That's a description of me. I went to the audition. I got the job. And I ended up reading for over 50 hours to create a voice system based on my speaking voice. Okay. That voice system ended up in over 1 billion GPS and smartphones and elevators and cruise ships and software applications all the way around the world, telling people where to go and what to do. Now, this was a really unexpected development in my singer-songwriter career. And it took a long time, actually, Prashant. This is spanning quite a number of years. But after my voice ended up in these devices and people would find out that it was my voice directing them, they would get very excited and want to share with me all of the wonderful trips we had taken together and all of the places we had been, and they would talk to me as if I knew them. And there was this familiarity. So I knew there was something in it, the way that people seemed to feel very connected to me, even though I wasn't really there in their car with them, directing them, but they related to me as if I was there with them and that we knew each other really well. So eventually I knew there was something in it. I wasn't sure what it was. And it was a process over a number of years by which I eventually realized that there was a brand to create. There was a greater message to share. And from the satellite view, not only could I share through my music to make a difference in people's lives and to make an impact, but also through a message. And the GPS directions, I put it together, like directions in the car and an analogy for directions in business and in life. So I created the 5 directions for recalculating and wrote 2 books and started to share stories from my own life and experience where I had navigated change, where I had recalculated my way from living in Australia to New York City and through chronic anxiety and financial disaster and so many other challenges that we all have as human beings. And I shared mine and found that really resonated with people, and that analogy of directions in life and recalculating was something that really it really resonated for people, and they could relate to it and connect with that.
Right. So it was basically if I can say, the struggles you had on your personal life and your corporate life, which was incorporated into the brand which we all know as of now, the GPS Girl.
That's right.
Right. And so, yeah, a music artist who went on to become the GPS Girl is, what, in short, if I can put it in one line, right? And so, you know, you are primarily a music artist, a music lover.
Well, I'm
So,
a songwriter and singer and concert performer, and that then has now led to sharing as a motivational speaker. So I will often speak at conferences and events live, but now also virtually, where I will share that positive message or that encouraging message of the 5 directions for recalculating. But yes, in my heart of hearts, it's a songwriter and performer and connecting and shining a light in people's lives through music.
yeah, and which was, I think, last month you had your first ever online concert,
I did my first virtual
right?
concert. I'm actually planning another one.
Okay. So, what this music means to you in the sense, like, how has it shaped your entire personality? Because music, in fact, has a much, much more, a much better impact on many people. So, how has it shaped you as an individual, as a personality?
Music is like breathing to me. It's uh, it's like a golden light.
Right.
It's healing. It's uplifting. It is like my very, very, very best friend. Music is. I just find that I am absolutely and completely a portal for being a messenger through music.
And the biggest influence of music has been Olivia Newton-John. You have
That's
time and again
right.
mentioned her name everywhere, that she has been your biggest influencer, right? So
That's right.
what is that about her that influenced you, and one quality of hers which has inspired you the most?
What initially I think had me transfixed by her is that I saw myself in her. I saw possibility in the future because here was a blonde Australian singer who'd moved to America and everybody loved her. So many of the things that I saw represented what I could potentially see for myself. So that was the initial part of it. But I've come to respect her gosh, the impact she has on human beings, and her connection and love and generosity with humanity.
Okay. So, you have one aspect of yours is, you have been associated with charity also,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, can you tell us about your, charitable, or if you have a charitable organization, or and what kind of a charity, are you into?
Well, I sometimes people will ask about political affiliations or religion, and who I really just strive to be the best human being I can be. And I am a humanitarian. So I have been involved with quite a number of incredible causes. And I just understand that every single human being on the planet has their needs met, and that everybody deserves the opportunity to be heard, to be loved. And Children International is one charity that I have been a part of, and sponsored children in um, a number of countries, and then gone to visit uh, some of those sponsored children. Um, I'm actually the international patron for a group in Australia called Broken to Brilliant, which is doing incredible work for survivors of domestic and family violence, helping them write and share their stories. So that's another incredible group that I've had the privilege to be a part of. So I'm just so moved to be able to bring any attention or education around groups of people doing incredible work, so that anyone who is not really experiencing that freedom in life, and being cared for and being loved and being heard, has the opportunity to do so.
Okay. As a child, everyone has their dream of becoming something, achieving something in life. Okay. And some people do that. Some people achieve their dreams. Some people achieve their goals. Okay. And you are one of them. You dreamt of something, okay, as a child, and you went on to achieve that. The journey still continues, definitely, right? So how was the dream of a child in Australia to someone who is a performer in New York? How has the journey been?
I dreamed very, very hard and intensely when I was a young child, and I grew up in a town called Mackay in North Queensland in Australia, where there were no professional musicians. And what I saw on television or read about led me to know there was a wider world out there, and there was the opportunity to go somewhere else where I could be a performer and connect with people and through music. And I would say I just really had this very clear drive and vision, but I was filled with anxiety through much of it. And I would know what this next step might be, but with it came a lot of fear.
Okay.
And I had to take a deep breath and talk myself through it and keep going and get support. But I think it's easier to do that when you know that you're on the right track. And I'm happy to report that at this point in my life, I have a lot less anxiety or fear than I ever have. Now, that being said, we're all in a time of crisis right now, when there was just as much uncertainty about the future before this happened, but it's making us really present to and clear about not having a clue about what is going to happen next. So I find myself in a period of time where I'm really looking at what is next. I'm somebody who loves to create my life and believes we can all take steps to create our lives, rather than being at the effect of circumstances and being a victim of our lives or of circumstances. But it's really taking a lot right now, a lot of energy, to be with that uncertainty and figure out, okay, what is the next expression of what I'm here on the planet to do? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, because the motive behind asking you this question was, we are right now in a place and a time where we don't know what the future holds for us. Right? We are at a place where many of us have left their jobs. Okay, they've got their pink slips. Okay, the future is uncertain. The kids are at home. The schools, colleges, universities are closed. We don't know when it's gonna happen. Right? And this is not something which is confined to one area. This is something which is global.
Right.
Right? And many people have been given pink slips, right, with a totally uncertain future. Right? Now, for many of them, entrepreneurship might be an answer. Right? They must have dreamt of something, right? And now maybe this is the time to follow that dream, create a niche, create something out of it. Right? So something for those people who want to do something in their life, Okay, maybe out of compulsion, maybe out of because they don't have anything else right now.
Oh, I
Okay.
have so much to say.
Yeah. So maybe something for them, something just to go out and achieve your dreams. Okay, maybe yes, definitely this is a pandemic, this is something which we everyone is going through, right? But then how to make good use of this.
Very good. So one thing that many of us have an abundance of is time right now. So the question is, how are you going to use that time? And I know I go between feeling pretty darn productive and then not being barely able to function or having the desire to do anything. But the time is an opportunity if you're able to manage yourself, to be able to control what you can control, which might be those very basic steps during the day, taking steps around our well-being and our our physical and our mind and our basics in our environment and with our relationships at home, really putting those in order with very basic steps. And then to allow ourselves to take steps like perhaps pondering, daydreaming, writing in a journal, reading, watching inspirational and educational material, or listening to inspirational audios, really reflecting and allowing ourselves to go into those places of like asking ourselves the questions, what if I could really do anything, what would it be? Now that sounds really basic and simplistic, but you ask yourself a question like that and then listen. As I like to say, I learned recently, listen to what life wants of you.
Right.
There has never been a better time to really be listening and being able to be in tune with ourselves and allowing ourselves to explore what could be possible for us.
Okay. So yes, so this is where our life was going on a path,
Right.
right? We have there was a little turn which was not expected,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I guess this is where recalculate and navigate your life comes into picture the most.
We're all recalculating. The entire
All.
world is recalculating. But some of what I just said about having control over what we can control and taking care of basics comes from my noticing that we are in a period of time where perhaps we're not even ready to recalculate. This is the precursor to recalculating. Recalculating is a really active process. And I can send you the 5 directions for recalculating
Yeah.
process to active. But some of us are just not even able to be in that active process right now. There's a level of shock. There's still a level of, bewilderment. And that kind of space is very difficult. So I've been referring to this period as pre-calculating, the period before we actively recalculate. And I think in general, just being very gentle with ourselves and upping our self-care in a huge way, particular watching our thoughts about ourselves and about the situation and about others, and remembering that not all business everywhere in the world ended. There are still transactions happening. There is still business being done. There are some companies that this pandemic has been the best thing that ever happened to them. And I understand there is an enormity of suffering economically, in terms of health, in so many ways. And I know for myself, I know what I need to do for myself is be surrounding myself with healthy conversation, healthy inquiry, healthy materials. And this is extremely important for anybody who wants to um, navigate this time as powerfully as they possibly can.
And you have been associated with kids in charity and other places, right? uh, one advice from you for the parents or the kids, because I guess the kids are the hardest hit by this pandemic. you know Kids, children and all, they have been confined to their homes for the last 2 months, 2.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and God knows how many more months they'll be confined to, because parents are
Right.
not willing to take them out, go out, play, or whatever they want to do. Okay, now during this time, it's either books or the TV or an electronic gadget which is their best friend. Okay. So what kind of a setup should we have for children? Okay, if you can guide us through that.
You know, I know for us, my son is 12, our son is 12, so it's extremely difficult and challenging. And there's just way too much electronic time, and his studies have all been electronic. But we are working on crafty, interactive activities, you know, and playing games like Scrabble and um, dot to dot and cooking, and just being able to, and it really, really takes something, because I don't always feel like that either. But to be able to consciously make plans to do activities and to do them together, and this time I am seeing as bonus time and like a family time gift, as much as it's way more than we would have planned, right?
Right.
But all we have it control over is our reaction to it and our approach. And I know for me, I just am trying different things and trying new things, and then speaking to my friends and the people in my mastermind group, and brainstorming other things, and just trying to see what works. But it's all about interactivity and reading, of course, and finding ways to make that fun. I know with my son, sometimes we'll say, let's have a reading party. And I'll read my book and he'll read his book. And we call that a reading party. Now, there's nothing complicated about it.
Right.
It's both of us reading, but we call it a reading party. And that can really make us feel excited about it. So there are creative ways, and it is not easy.
Definitely. We have been so busy in our life, our professional lives, our so there was some disconnect with the family. There was some disconnect with the kids. Our timings of leaving to office, coming from
Right.
office, where this thing. So this is a time which we have kind of used it to connect with the family. Okay, that to immediate family, right? Because the relatives and all, again, they have become distant because of the social distancing and not going
Mm-hmm.
out and all this stuff. But with your immediate family, with your kid, with your family, okay, this has been a time to kind of come together, do things together, create a new bond, create a new relationship. And so this, all this thing has kind of, every good thing has a bad thing to it also, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, because we cannot go out, right? Because even if we go out, there's a social distancing in place.
Mm-hmm.
And this social distancing, with masks and all, will be there for a near future, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
For us, I can definitely seeing it in place for the next 1 year or so. Okay. All this has given rise to our digital activity. All of a sudden, our digital activity has risen a lot,
Right.
right? We have been, on our screen times have risen, be it for the kid or be it for ourselves. Our
Hmm.
screen times have risen, right? And there has been a lot of dependence on artificial intelligence. There has been a lot of dependence on gadgets for everything. Okay, so is this the new future? What we are looking at, a future where gadgets, what we call it as a digital life. Are we looking at a new digital life? Are we looking at a thing where everything will be, not everything, but 90% of the thing will be influenced by our screen time, influenced by social media, influenced by digital thing.
I think a very large portion of our time will continue to be digital. And I think that some of the different modalities we're using now will continue. I think a lot of business travel will be removed. I don't think it will happen anymore. I think that people will do online meetings. I think they will, I know for me, I have family around the world and we've been connecting online regularly. And I would like to think that will continue. So there are some very, very positive things about that. And then when there is less commuting time to the office or home again, really frees us up to have more home time. So I see some of these benefits as lasting for sure. And yeah, only time is going to tell exactly how much of our lives will continue to be digital. I think human beings are still going to crave that interpersonal connection. But I know for myself, the racing around and running around is not something that I want to be doing quite how I used to. And I think a lot of people have that thought.
So we as humans are, we are social animals. Like, we like to
For
socialize.
sure. That's right.
We like to socialize. We like to meet. We like to greet. Okay, and this is something which we as humans will have to, it will be difficult, but I guess that will be the norm we have to live with in the near future.
We're going to figure it out. We always
Right.
seem to.
So, we have a way out of things. We will be, taking this thing. But overall, okay, you have been, speaking on, recalculating the life. It's never too late to recalculate. And,
That's right.
right. So, how would you kind of, leaving aside the business part, we will be only talking about the personal stuff. Okay. So what advice would you have for all the people, okay, uh, in this pandemic, in the crisis what we have got ourselves into, okay, how can we recalculate, or as you have said, pre-calculate, now the term is pre-calculate your life. Okay.
Right.
So how do we go about it? And what are the best things, to come out of this?
Well, I think we've touched on some of them, but it's very much back to basics for me. It's, am I drinking enough water? Go and have another glass of water. Take a look at all of the foods I'm eating during the day and making choices of more nourishing plant-based foods that make me feel better, making sure I get at least 8 hours sleep every night. Really watching how much news I'm watching. I'm finding that very difficult right now. But noticing when I'm not feeling so positive, what is missing? Is it hydration? Is it sleep? Is it the negative images coming into my mind because of the amount of news I'm watching? So those basics, I just think anybody and everybody could sit down and write a list of 10 to 20 tiny actions that make them feel better. It might be walking out into your garden. It might be that simple. It might be making a cup of tea. It might be a hug with somebody you live with in your house. It might be sitting and reading next to your loved one in the house. It can be so simple, but having a list of those small daily actions to take, I think makes a very big difference. To sit down and really ponder, what is it that helps me recalculate and shift the energy and have a bit more relief and to feel better about my day or what's happening.
Because this is the time where, sitting idle also gives rise to many negative thoughts.
Oh, exactly, exactly. And affirmations are excellent. Figuring out some great affirmations, there's a lot of information online about that. Louise Hay is an excellent resource. And coming up with positive affirmations so that when those negative thoughts come, that you can say to yourself instead, all is well, or I am being totally taken care of, or something that we can go to distract ourselves from those negative thoughts. And I meditate daily, twice a day. I find that that is essential for me. So maybe there is something like that that makes a difference, a mindfulness that we haven't been doing, or some of our viewers and listeners have not been doing but would like to do, they know will make a difference. And they can start small with just a few minutes a day and build up to start to build those resilience tools to be able to cope better with whatever life holds in the future.
So, yeah, I guess, with that, we will kind of, end this webinar. And, you know, the reason why we touched only upon Karen Jacobsen as an individual, Karen Jacobsen as an inspirational person. Okay, because rest everything is out there on the web about her being the GPS girl. Her music is out there on the web. She has her own website. Okay, but we wanted to touch upon Karen Jacobsen as a person, Karen Jacobsen as an individual, her dreams, how we can resonate with her, how, what all things we can take from her journey, right? And we have learned a lot. And, thanks a lot, Karen. Thanks a lot for being a part of this.
You're welcome. And if you remember only one thing from everything today, it is never too late to recalculate. It is never too late to recalculate. Oh, and you have reached your destination.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.